finally happened. I knew it was going to happen eventually with one of these read-alongs. Finally did. Chapters 3 and 4, you may notice I have different hair. Chapters 3 and 4, I accidentally deleted them somehow, somewhere, in the process of getting them from the camera to the computer, to the folder where I keep all my read-alongs. They were deleted or lost. I have finished this book, and I'm refilming this, because I sat down to edit for Monday's video, and look! A great big chunk is missing. Yes, I'm pretty pissed about that. I knew it was going to happen because I'm dealing with so many files, and they all look very similar, so I knew it was bound to happen, but it did. It finally did. So we're going to try to blast through chapters 3 and 4 again for me, first time for you, and hopefully you remember what I said. Chapter 3 is in which Simran meets a witch and has doubts about a wizard. So right away we get down to the witch. Simran has been dealing with fucking Thranduil all week, and she's just about had enough. She hears a knock at the door, she answers it tersely, but at the other side is actually a witch come to see about the crepe pan. And this is our first introduction to Morwen, who we will see more of later. And this is when we also learn that witches in this world don't necessarily look stereotypically witchy. She just looks like an ordinary person wearing witchy garb. Morwen points out that sooner or later the princes are going to try to rescue Simran, whether she wants it or not, and that could get kind of dicey. Together, they concoct a plan to create a sign telling the princes that the road is washed out, and they should just wait for a while and come back later to try and slow, at least, the flow of princes coming to try to rescue Simran. So after she finishes hanging out with Morwen, Simran heads down the mountain to put up her sign. As she's moving down a particularly precarious ledge, part of the ledge in front of her just fucking disappears. And Simran's like, well, that's weird. I didn't hear any rocks fall. It was here just a second ago. WTF. Then Simran is like, oh, well, this could work in my favor, because if there's a big old gap in the ledge and I can't get past it, neither can knights. And she's about to just go home when she sees that the other side of the ledge has also disappeared, so now she's stuck. Luckily for Simran, someone shows up and offers to help her, that being the wizard Zeminar. Simran takes an immediate dislike to Zeminar. He reminded her of one of her father's courtiers, a humorless, sneaky little man who had paid her compliments only when he was after something, and who couldn't resist giving advice even when nobody wanted it. Simran realizes that the wizard is probably responsible for the ledge being missing, possibly so he can rescue her and ingratiate himself to the dragons. So she just does an Indiana Jones and starts moving across the path. Simran gets herself out of that situation and the wizard goes away. Before Simran can get very far, however, she meets another person, that being the dragon Warag, who thinks she's trying to escape. Just as Simran is arguing with Warag about whether she was trying to escape, Prince fucking Thranduil comes charging in to slay the dragon. In the scuffle, Simran gets her foot stepped on by Thranduil and his heavy-ass boots. And Warag just nopes out of this whole situation and just leaves. He just flies away, because why wouldn't he? He's just hanging out on the cliff. He can fly away. Not his problem. Not his princess, not his problem. But Simran decides to use the situation to her advantage, and she tells Thranduil that he twisted her ankle, and so she will not be able to be rescued for some time. She can't be rescued for a whole month, which again, Simran, always clever. Now we are on to chapter 4, in which Kazul has a dinner party and Simran makes dessert. Simran decides that even though she's pretty sure that Thranduil is going to spread the word of her injury, she'll put up her sign anyway. Kazul and Simran have a little conversation about princesses and what kind of status symbol they are for dragons. Not super important, you know, just having a convo, building the world. Then Kazul drops the bomb that she has invited some friends over for dinner and she expects Simran to do some cooking. Luckily, all she's expecting from Simran is the dessert, so at least there's that. Simran can't manage so much dragon quantity of Cherry's Jubilee on short notice, but she can make a delicious chocolate mousse. Good thing dragons aren't like dogs and they can apparently eat chocolate, otherwise that could go very badly. Simran makes the mousse, but she's all sweaty and gross afterwards, so she goes to her wardrobe to try to find something new, and she discovers that it is a magical wardrobe that gives you whatever kinds of clothing that you need at that particular moment. It then takes Simran 4 trips to take the buckets of mousse, because what else is a dragon going to eat its mousse out of but a bucket, down to the banquet hall, and then she just stands and waits to serve the dessert. Lucky for Simran, her training as a princess does come in handy. When Kazul finally calls her in to serve the dessert, she doesn't have to wonder which dragon to serve first because she remembers about place settings. After a little argument between Warag and Kazul about Simran, the dragons get down to having a conversation about another dragon named Galrim, who claims that he is suspicious of wizards being around. Galrim's been raving about it for weeks. Somebody snuck into her cave and stole a book from her library. No traces, but for some reason she's positive it was a wizard. They ask what book was taken, and Roxham is like, oh, some history or another. What would a wizard want with a history book? That's weird. The dragons are all like, why would a wizard dare come here? They don't come into dragon territory. They know what we do to them. But then Kazul is like, not true. My princess saw a fucking wizard, like, just today. Everybody asks who the wizard was. Simran says that it's Zeminar. Warag is dubious. Zeminar was elected head of the Society of Wizards last year. He wouldn't waste his time playing games with somebody's princess. Not unless he had a great deal to gain by it, the thin dragon said in a thoughtful tone. Everyone is like, the king of the dragons will handle it. It's his job to deal with this shit. He can use the king's stone, which apparently is this cool rock that the dragons have. He can use that to spy on the wizards and make sure that they're not up to shenanigans. Then the dragons also having a conversation that I'm sure we are all very familiar with anytime we've tried to have some sort of group conversation or come to a consensus. It reminded Simran of the way her father's ministers argued. Everyone seemed to agree that something ought to be done about the wizards, but they each had a different idea about what was appropriate. Everything starts to escalate. Kazul has kept herself out of this conversation, but when things start to get into fire-breathing territory, Kazul finally puts a stop to the shenanigans. Thank you all for your advice. I'll certainly think about it before I decide what to do. What do you mean by that? The thin dragon asked suspiciously. It was my princess who met the wizard, Kazul pointed out, and therefore it's my decision whether to report the matter to the king, or to take action of my own, or ask for cooperation from some of you. Turn down for what? The dragons die down into boring, ordinary conversations, and the dinner party ends, and Simran finally gets to go to bed. There you go, guys. Filling in my chapters 3 and 4. Hopefully I don't have any more missing chapters. Fingers crossed. This was a weird one because normally I don't delete any files while I'm in the process of recording a read-along, but I needed to because my camera was full, so possibly somewhere in there I accidentally deleted the wrong thing. Or it will turn up. Like, after all this, I'll find it after I have finished all of this editing and everything. I'll be like, oh, there's the file right there. Who knows? Anyway, guys, I will see you maybe shortly with the next chapters. Who's ready to relax and read some more? Dealing with dragons. Probably just gonna flop in the couch here. I don't know where to put the camera exactly. Who knows where I will flop to. Today, I'm going for maximum luxury. I have these delicious truffles that I got at our local Aldi. They are so tasty. Like, if you have an Aldi near you, just saying, Aldi is great. And if you don't shop there, you're missing out. Let's get on to chapter 5 and probably 6. I've just been kind of going 2 chapters at a time. The chapters are reasonably long, and I usually have like a limited reading time. Chapter 5, in which Simran receives a formal call from her companions in dire captivity. So right away in this chapter, we are learning things. Simran doesn't waste any time. She asks Kazul about the things that she heard about at the dinner, such as the king's crystal, which belongs to the king of the dragons, and acts kind of like a crystal ball, except for it's a crystal plate. And also she's learning that wizards, their staves, steal magic from the world around them. And interestingly, the wizards cannot use magic without their staff, and the staff cannot absorb magic without the wizard. It's a very strange little symbiotic relationship, and just a little, like, touch, a little piece of world building that's really intriguing to me. Because you've got wizards, and we see wizards all the time in our stories, you know, in our fantasy stories, but when we're writing, we have to find creative ways to make them different from the other wizards. And I think these ones are just different enough to keep you intrigued. Not only are they the bad guys in a time when wizards really weren't written as the bad guys, but also they have this weird thing about stealing magic and their staves and all of that stuff. And the wizards and the dragons have an accord where the wizards stay out of the dragon's territory in exchange for access to other certain parts of their territory that they want to be in. But the king of the dragons is getting old, and he's not keeping a very good eye on the wizards anymore. Simran, after learning all she can from Kazul, decides that because she saw a lot of fire breathing and anger happening at the dinner last night, she's going to try to create a spell that will fireproof her. So that's her next goal. Simran spends some time in the library. She realizes that if she's going to find anything in there, she's going to have to clean first. So she gets to work doing that when she hears some voices, and for once it's not a knight. It's actually 3 other princesses coming to visit her. And they're all short and petite and blonde, and Simran is just wearing her cleaning clothes, so at first they don't even think that she is a princess. Simran gets to know these 3 new princesses, 2 of which are fairly classic princesses, you know, the whole "it's not done" kind of princesses, and then one named Alianora, who seems like she has promise. Unfortunately for her, she also is the princess of Warrag, the very nasty, grumpy dragon. But they all do agree that being fireproofed might be a good idea. Simran chats away with these princesses, and then the other 2 go home, but Alianora comes back because she wants to hang out with Simran. So they get to work cleaning the library because Alianora would also like to be fireproofed. Oh, I forgot Alianora's backstory, and I fucking love it. I'm gonna read you some of it, possibly all of it, because it is chef's kiss. Alianora is, her parents got her taken by a dragon. "It's because I'm not a very satisfactory princess," Alianora said. "I tried, I really did, but it all started when a wicked fairy came to my christening." "She put a curse on you?" "No. She ate cake and ice cream until she nearly burst and danced with my Uncle Arthur until 2 in the morning and had a wonderful time. So she went home without cursing me, and Aunt Ermintrude says that that's where the whole problem started. When I turned 16, Aunt Ermintrude sent me a gold spinning wheel for my birthday, and I sat and I spun, and I didn't prick my finger or anything. So Aunt Ermintrude told Mama to put me and a spinning wheel in a room full of straw and have me spin it into gold," Alianora went on. "And I tried, but all I could manage was linen thread. And who ever heard of a princess who can spin straw into linen thread? Then they gave me a loaf of bread and told me to walk through the forest and give some to anyone who asked. I did exactly what they told me, and the second beggar woman was a fairy in disguise, but instead of saying that whenever I spoke, diamonds and roses would drop out of my mouth, she said that since I was so kind, I would never have any problems with my teeth. By the way, I would desperately love to find this beggar woman. I will walk around with bread, giving it to everyone I see if I can be blessed with never having any problems with my teeth. I have a phobia of dentists. I hate going to the dentist with every fiber of my soul. Alianora fails for a final time when her aunt dresses her up with glass slippers and she breaks them, and so her family finally decides, we're just gonna get this bitch kidnapped by a dragon. It's the only way. Poor Alianora has also only had 2 knights come to try to rescue her when the other 2 princesses have had dozens. But Simran is jealous because she wishes that only 2 knights would come to rescue her. Simran and her new bestie managed to unearth a spell for protecting them from dragon fire. It does, however, require a lot of reagents to cast it the first time. After you cast it the first time, you just need to throw some feverfew over your shoulder and recite a little couplet to recast it, but the first one's going to be a bit of a doozy because they have to find all these ingredients, which sounds like a quest. And with our quest in hand, we move on to Chapter 6, which is titled, "In which the wizards do some snooping and Simran snoops back." Slowly the girls are able to gather almost all of the ingredients with the help of Kazul, who helped them with the white eagle feathers by killing and eating an eagle, but they cannot find hen's teeth, powdered hen's teeth. So I'm sorry I haven't had too many writing things to talk about. I've just kind of been telling you what's happening in this book because honestly, this book is solid. I don't know what more to say other than, like, look at this book and how it's done. It's solid, it's readable, it's enjoyable. It doesn't waste a lot of time with unnecessary descriptions. It doesn't waste a lot of time with unnecessary scenes. The only thing I might say for this book, because I think it is a little bit more middle grade than young adult, we don't have a really close personal mental relationship with Simran, if that makes sense. It is third person, and it is third person limited, but in, say, the third person limited that is more popular now, we get a lot more of their feelings, a lot more introspection. This is my preference for third person, which is a little bit more with the characters' actions and letting us get to know them through their actions and less wallowing around in their thoughts and feelings. I'm not saying that if you hang out with your character's thoughts and feelings more, you're wrong. I'm just saying that it's a style choice, and I prefer seeing how characters behave and watching them to really get to know them more than I like wallowing around in thoughts and feelings. Simran is interrupted in her studies by, who of all people, but two wizards, one of which is Zeminar, the wizard she met before, and another one who's younger and she doesn't recognize. They've come to hang out, and let's be real, they're here to snoop. But we know Simran, she is not a pushover, so she's like, yeah, I'm gonna invite these wizards in, but like while they're trying to find out about me and my dragon, I'm gonna be trying to find out about them. Another problem that it's occurred to me that people might have with a book like this is that Simran is a fairly flawless character. Her flaws are not things that end up really mattering in this book. Her flaws are that she does not want to do princessly things and is bad and probably is not very good at those things, but because the world in which she has found herself is one that plays to her strengths, she doesn't have too much struggle. And right now, the climate we have right now is a lot more leaning towards characters that are flawed, characters that have to grow and have an arc. And Simran doesn't really have that. But that's not really what this book is about. It doesn't pretend to have that. Again, I think possibly because it's for a younger audience and it was written quite a while ago. Because of that, we have a maybe shallower main character, but there are still plenty of things to challenge her. It's not like everything just comes immediately to Simran, but because she is so clever and so quick-witted, it might seem like things are a little bit too easy and it doesn't quite read like we are used to from a lot of our young adult fiction nowadays. Again, I feel like the writing is so good and Simran as a character is so engaging and fun to read that it doesn't bother me in this case that she is maybe a little bit shallower than I normally like. But I could see that some people, especially nowadays, might not like that as much. We find out that the second younger wizard is Zeminar's son, Antarel. Simran is also playing it up that she is a more traditional princess, and she's using a lot of the tactics that she remembers her sisters using to get their own way, which is pretty fun, especially with the implication that her sisters like maybe pretend to be stupid. Like they aren't stupid, but they use these tactics to get what they want. The sort of blank look, the batting of the eyelashes, the super innocent nature. Also, Simran is so like passive aggressive with them. Like she gives Zeminar the cup with the broken handle even though he's a guest just because she didn't like him. She's shading these two super hard. The wizards are wanting to tour the rest of the caves, and Simran figures she might be able to get them to reveal their hand if she allows it, so she's just gonna go along, still pretending to be kind of airheaded and classically princessy, and see where this goes. Simran almost gets caught. I like this. She has a couple of books open on the table in the library, and they're complicated grown-up person books, and Zeminar's like, "Are you reading this?" And he gets nervous, and she's like, "Oh no, I just thought the library would look more lived in if there were some books open on the table." However, the son knocks some books on the floor and then hampers Simran while she's trying to pick them up, and when she looks back, Zeminar was definitely reading one of the books that she had previously been reading. Kazul comes home and Simran naturally tells her everything, and they try to figure out what part of the book, which is a book about dragons, that Zeminar was reading, and Simran thinks it was a part that talked about something called Colin's stone. Dragons have a very stone-based society, apparently, and Colin's stone is what they use to choose their new king. So that's interesting that the wizards would be looking at that. How they choose the king is when the old king dies, all the dragons compete to see who can carry Colin's stone. They have to carry it up to the Vanishing Mountain, wherever that is. And if they succeed, they become king. And Simran's like, well, it must be very heavy. It's not actually a heavy stone. It vibrates, if that makes sense. And it vibrates so much that eventually the dragon who's carrying it's like hands go numb and it falls and they drop it. But the true king will be able to carry it. We also learn here that king is a genderless title. Anybody can be king of the dragons, and anybody can be queen of the dragons as well. Queen is a completely different job. They're just like job titles. And right now they don't even have a queen because it's a really boring job and nobody wants it. So that's just another thing that I like. King and queen and gendered titles like that don't actually mean anything. They're just titles. They're job titles. Kazul thinks that the wizards were actually looking for information on the Caves of Fire and Night, which are dragon controlled and the wizards don't really get to go into very much. Kazul goes to visit Gaurim, one of the other dragons, because she remembered that he had a book stolen as well. And the book that was stolen from Gaurim is The Kings of the Dragons. So Kazul concludes that yes, the wizards are definitely looking to get into the Caves of Fire and Night, which are these twisting, magical caves with all kinds of weird fantasy stuff in them. The caves are also a convenient way to get to the Enchanted Forest, where the wizards would love to go, because there's so much magic there. There's another book that Kazul is pretty sure the wizards are going to want. It's a book, again, all about the Caves of Fire and Night, but it's really rare, and the only one who has one is Morrowind the Witch. So Simran is not going to be able to continue with her fireproofing quest because they are going to go visit Morrowind, and that will happen in Chapter 7. But I'm going to stop reading for now. It has gotten dark. I have things to do, so I'll catch you again whenever we read Chapter 7. Hello, new month, new patrons. Who have we got on our patron list this month? We have Lennox, Adrienne, Amanda, Irene, Jenny, Jesper, Kim, Lisa, Ryakio, Savvy Panda, Savvy, and Scribbling Cat. I'm sure I mispronounced at least one of those names. If you would like to have your name professionally mispronounced, then you can join my amazing patrons over on Patreon.